When we think about what shapes history, our minds usually jump to the big stuff, right? Wars, politics, massive inventions. But what if I told you the real architect of our world isn't our work, but our downtime? What if the key to understanding everything around us, our entire modern reality, is hidden in the strange, forgotten ways people use to kill time? We're about to see how simple, honest-to-goodness boredom accidentally built the world we live in today. So, our whole story kicks off with this one mysterious note. It was attached to this enormous, ancient-looking trunk that just showed up in the basement of a London museum. And inside, no treasure, no gold, just a bizarre collection of artifacts from old hobbies. But that note, it posed this incredible puzzle. Could the things our ancestors did for fun actually explain everything? And that question became an absolute obsession for the museum's curator, a Dr. Elias Thorne. As he started unpacking this time capsule of human leisure, he realized the answer wasn't just yes. It was a loud, shocking, world-changing yes. He was discovering that the seemingly trivial ways people spent their free time had consequences that literally reshaped the planet. Yeah, this trunk belonged to a woman named Lady Eleanor Vance, and it was basically a catalog of human eccentricity. Each compartment held the key to a completely different piece of our modern world. Everything from global economics to the way we think about sports, and even how we deal with death. Okay, so let's open the first compartment together. What Dr. Thorne found inside was just a tiny glass box and a journal. But they told the story of a forgotten craze that would go on to completely, and I mean violently, reshape the global economy. It was called pterodomania. You might know it as the fern craze. And in the mid-1800s, Victorian Britain went absolutely bananas for ferns. I'm serious. People were risking their lives climbing down cliffs just to get a rare specimen. Fern patterns were showing up on everything from teapots to gravestones. It was a full-blown cultural obsession. But there was one huge problem. All these delicate, beautiful ferns, they just couldn't survive. The air in industrial London was this thick, polluted, coal-choked smog, and it was killing them. So if this hobby was going to continue, the collectors needed a solution, and they needed it fast. And the solution came from a doctor named Nathaniel Ward. He invented this sealed glass box, the Wardian case. It's brilliant in its simplicity. It's basically a tiny self-contained ecosystem. Water evaporates from the soil, it condenses on the glass, and then it rains right back down on the plants. A fern could live in there for years, totally sealed off from the toxic city air outside. And here is where it gets absolutely incredible. This simple box, this little glass case invented for a hobby, changed the world. For the first time ever, live plants could survive long ocean voyages. Now, just stop and think about what that means. The British used Wardian cases to smuggle tea plants out of China to start their own plantations in India. They did the exact same thing with rubber tree seeds from Brazil, which broke a global monopoly and directly fueled the rise of the car and the bicycle. All of this because people wanted a pretty plant in their living room. Just wild. So the next compartment. Thorne opens it to find a pair of totally worn-out boots and a bunch of old event posters. And inside was the blueprint for something massive, our entire modern, multi-billion-dollar sports entertainment industry. Long before the Super Bowl, before the World Cup, the biggest sport on the entire planet was pedestrianism, competitive walking. No, I'm not kidding. Tens of thousands of people would pack arenas to watch men and women just walk, often for days on end, in these grueling, unimaginable tests of human endurance. The absolute superstar of the sport was a guy named Captain Robert Barkley, and his most famous feat? He walked 1 mile every single hour for 1,000 consecutive hours. Do the math. That's 42 days straight without sleeping for more than maybe 45 minutes at a time. It was this incredible display of human grit, and you know what? The public could not get enough. And if any of this is starting to sound familiar, well, it should. Pedestrianism basically created the whole concept of the celebrity athlete. It pioneered sports sponsorships. You had bootmakers paying the top walkers to wear their products. It gave birth to sports journalism, with newspapers driving huge sales just by printing daily lap counts. This wasn't just a quirky old sport, it was the exact business model that multi-billion-dollar sports leagues use today. All right, so the next clues from the trunk were different. They were way more personal. This wasn't about economics or entertainment anymore. These were hobbies that fundamentally reshaped how we as humans process life and death itself. And this one, well, it's a bit startling at first. Dr. Thorne found this beautiful, incredibly intricate jewelry, brooches, watch chains, even large framed art pieces, all woven entirely from human hair. This was known as macabre mourning craft. You have to remember, this was an era with really high mortality rates and no photography, so families would keep a physical piece of their lost loved ones with them. See, human hair doesn't decay. So weaving it into a piece of art was a way to make a memory permanent, a way to quite literally keep a piece of a loved one with you. It might seem really strange to us today, but back then it was a deeply meaningful, almost essential way to cope with constant loss. And the legacy of this hobby is just immense. It really popularized the whole idea of memorialization, of creating a physical token to help find psychological closure. And as demand for these intricate hairpieces grew, professionals started offering their services, which actually helped lay the commercial groundwork for the modern funeral industry we have today. The way we formally process grief, a lot of its roots are right here in this hobby. But not all of these hobbies that shaped our minds were so benign. The very next compartment revealed something much more complicated, something that was, at the same time, both a scientific breakthrough and a tool for incredible harm. So, welcome to the world of phrenology. This was a massive cultural craze. It was all based on this idea that your personality traits, everything about you, were located in specific organs of the brain. So a bump on your skull meant you had a well-developed trait, like combativeness or benevolence. Think of it like a bizarre 19th century personality test. And this is its chilling dual legacy. On the one hand, while the whole bump reading thing was total nonsense, the core idea that different parts of the brain have different jobs was actually a radical breakthrough. It's the direct ancestor of modern neuroscience. But on the other hand, this hobby was weaponized. It was used to provide a so-called scientific justification for racism, for slavery, and later for eugenics, by falsely claiming to measure the intellect of different races by their skull shape, a hobby with a truly dark side. So after exploring ferns and competitive walking, hair art, and skull bumps, Dr. Thorne finally understood the trunk's message. All of these strange, seemingly disconnected pastimes, they all tied together to reveal a fundamental truth about how human progress actually works. And this is it. This is the ultimate revelation from the trunk. It turns out the true architect of our world, the force that secretly engineers our future, isn't our work. It's our boredom. It's the excess time we have on our hands and the obsessive, strange, playful things we do to fill it that creates the most unexpected and profound changes in our culture. Which, of course, brings us right to today. We might laugh at the Victorians and their ferns, but think about our hobbies. We spend our free time curating digital avatars. We take artistic photographs of our meals. We broadcast our most minute thoughts into the void. We watch other people play video games for hours. To a historian 200 years from now, our pastimes are going to look just as bizarre as hair jewelry does to us. And that really leaves us with one final, and I think pretty urgent question. The Victorians had no idea their idle hours were laying the groundwork for global trade and modern neuroscience. So what about us? What are we building? What unforeseen world is being quietly, accidentally architected by the things we do just to pass the time today?
Please like and subscribe.